Greetings, everyone. It is I am the one and only Meloetta here, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos here. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of our video game collection video. Yeah, it's yet another video game collection video after the events of the updated PlayStation 2 game collection, thanks to Pichu. So that was the last time we actually did the updated version of something related to the video game collection video series. And this time around, though, we're about to be jumping into the next PlayStation series of consoles. And that will have to be the PSP, or specifically as what is known as PlayStation Portable. And guys, can you even believe that the PSP has been out for 20 years now, since in Japan? Jeez, time flies. Especially as you can tell that we still managed to get ourselves the glorious PSP 3000 version, because I know for a fact that there are 5 different models for the PSP, like there's the 1000 version, the 2000 version, the 3000 version, as we somehow still got, and on top of that, there's also the PSP Go, which does manage able to offer us the lack of UMD drives, so that's always something. And as far as I'm aware, that particular system is digital only. And finally, most notably though, there's also E1000, which is basically the same thing as 3000 version, but with less features, for what I've heard anyway. So, as far as the PSP, as far as I'm aware, it's actually a really dang good system, at least as far as I'm aware. And generally speaking, like I stated before, that the PSP has officially became 20 recently, since in Japan anyway, for December 12th in 2004. Although, unlike in any other regions, they somehow managed to came out in just about a couple of weeks later. To be more accurate though, 2005 for America, and other regions like Italy or Ukraine, and most importantly though, for our channel anyway, European or UK to be more specifically. And as far as the lifespan is concerned for the PSP itself, it all began in 2004, but then it somehow ended during the likes of in 2014. So there was like a 10-year gap with that particular life cycle. So yeah, that's actually quite impressive, all things considered. So anyway, and obviously though, the system has discontinued in, let's just say, in North America in 2014 in January, and meanwhile in Japan it was June also in 2014, and finally in PAL regions it was on December 2014. So, and as far as I'm aware, the PSP actually sold for about, let's just say, it did somehow reach for about 80 or 82 million units sold. So yeah, that's actually pretty good, all things considered. And what makes the PSP quite interesting compared to the forms of how it does it on, let's just say Nintendo DS, for instance, it does utilize UMD, which stands for Universal Media Disc. So obviously, though, you can able to play certain games on it. And then on top of all that stuff, though, there's also some UMD movies that has actually also been supported, like some films like The Simpsons movie, Chicken Run, and some series of Doctor Who, and you name the rest. And as far as I'm aware, that the best-selling game for the PSP is actually, kind of think about it though, there are 2 different best-selling games for the PSP, at least as far as I can recall. Like there's Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, and also Vice City Stories. So yeah, that's as far as I was going to be thinking about that anyway. So, but that's not to say about the fact that, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that, well, you get the idea about the fact that how the PSP was actually quite cool. Especially, not only does it feature the D-pad, but also the analog stick, which, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point right now, because the main focus of this video, either way, is of course the games that we somehow got. So, and I think we actually got quite a few this time around, unlike the forms of how it does it since back in 2021, thanks to Maxi somehow already did done the PSP game collection before, but usually, relatively speaking, it's obviously now outdated, probably because, well, you soon to find out. So anyway, on to the games themselves. So anyway, and as usual, it's going to be in the alphabetical order. So either way, start things off with this collection is Ape Escape P, also known as in North America, Ape Escape on the Loose. And this is basically a remake of the original Ape Escape, but you can able to play the game on the go. And suffice to say though, this version is alright. I mean, it's not the best remake I've ever played. I mean, generally speaking, though, it does have some interesting aspects. Like, for instance, though, is about the fact that there is, you can play this game on the go, and on top of that, certain voice cast has been replaced with, not only for the sake of the forms of Jake, but alongside with any other characters as well. And, yeah, for what I've played so far anyway, I haven't exactly got far into it yet. Mainly because, as far as I'm aware, the controls are a little bit different compared to the original PlayStation Classic. Because remember, in the original PlayStation Classic, that normally, you do able to actually have two analog stick controls. Like, for instance, though, with the left analog stick, you can able to take control of Jake. And meanwhile, for the right analog stick, you can able to do all sorts of actions, ranging from using gadgets and all that stuff. That's not the case on the PSP version, on the other hand, because you see, it only has one analog stick right here, not both. So, yeah, that's one to classify for mentioning about that stuff, though. But for its worth, though, as I said earlier, this version is alright. I mean, I wasn't able to recommend this version in its entirety. I'd much rather go back onto the original PlayStation version any day, because obviously, though, that's what makes the control scheme for the original Ape Escape, alongside with Ape Escape 2 and 3, so unique, especially because that's how the dual analog stick controls comes into play. But not the case on the PSP remake, though. I think this is the only Ape Escape remake that's ever existed, by the way. So there's no remake on the second game or the third game. So yeah, kind of a bummer though to me. Burnout Legends, and I think this is the only Burnout game I somehow got for the PSP, because I usually used to have Burnout Dominator, but ultimately though it was about the fact I ended up going with the PlayStation 2 version of Burnout Dominator, clearly because between both the PSP and PS2 version of Burnout Dominator, they are both pretty much identical, but apart from the fact that you can play the game on the go with Burnout Dominator. But either way though, I tone it down a bit when it comes to multiple versions of certain Burnout games these days, but I digress. So for Burnout Legends though, it's basically Burnout 3, but on portable devices. And I know for a fact that there's also this infamous Nintendo DS version, which good thing I somehow skipped over the DS version of its entirety, just because obviously though I've heard a lot of horror stories with that particular version. So anyway, and for I've played ever since in 2015, some time ago, I displayed the heck out of it for this game, especially because it is very exhilarating that you can play a Burnout game on the go, and on top of all that stuff though, it runs very well on a PSP, and it also features the exact same modes as the forms of how it does it for Burnout 3 Takedown. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool, and I would easily recommend this game if you're a pretty cool way to able to play racing games and all that stuff. So, and also you probably already realized is about the fact that I actually got the PSP Essentials version. So, because obviously though, I was attempting to try to get the original version, but it's already too late for now, but I'm fine with that. Castlevania, the Dracula X Chronicles. Yeah, you probably already know about this already. Ever since in a couple of years ago, even a couple of months ago, essentially, because I already know for a fact that Joy has obviously already shown you guys the compilation game collection. So, yeah, as far as, you know, Castlevania, the Dracula X Chronicles is a really cool compilation that not only does it feature a full-on remake of the forms of Rondo of Blood, I think it was, and it's also about the fact that you can able to unlock the original version of Rondo of Blood as well. And on top of all that stuff, though, you can also unlock Symphony of the Night, as well as the forms of this very random boot-like kind of game or something like that, which I'm not exactly sure what that's called exactly, because, well, straight to the point, though, I haven't exactly touched upon this game for quite some time, mainly because I do need to get used to with how Richter Belmont's controls and all that stuff. And also, you probably already knows about the fact that we still got the American import, which luckily it's region-free. So, yeah, it's not the end of the world for me, though, unlike the forms of Nintendo systems back in the day that we have to cope with the forms of region locking. So, but either way, yeah, nothing else I can say about the forms of Castlevania, the Dracula X Chronicles. So yeah, definitely recommend this one, especially considering you get multiple games all in one particular UMD. So yeah, pretty cool. Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai. Oh yes, the next kind of Budokai series of games. And I haven't exactly touched upon this yet though, just because I still need to get around on playing not only the original trilogy of Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, but it's also about the fact I also need to get around on playing Infinite World at some point. But I do know for certain for one thing about the forms of Shin Budokai, it obviously only takes place in one of those movie specials, which appears to be Fusion Reborn. So generally speaking, that's as far as you can definitely tell for this point. And for a PSP game, it's actually pretty dang good, even though it's almost inspired by the exact same gameplay style as in Budokai 3, which I appreciate. And on top of all that stuff though, you can also play this game on the go, which is, huge plus in my book. And it doesn't have as many characters per se, but for its worth though, it certainly is a really good one. So yeah, nothing else I can say about it. But they got a direct sequel during the Forms event 2007, which is Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai 2, aka, for those of you who lived in North America, Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai Another Road. So, I'm pretty sure the entire story in this game takes place in future Trunks' story. So, yeah, I was going to be fault about it because it did say on the description right there. So, yeah, it plays pretty much exactly like the Forms of how it does it on the first Shin Budokai, but the camera perspective actually changes depending on the forms of certain combat mechanics worked. So either way though, that's actually pretty cool and everything. But much like the forms of how it does on the first Shin Budokai, I need to be able to try to get into this game at some point. But the only reason why I got this, and same applies with the first game, is to be able to get my Dragon Ball Z games going with the entire collection and stuff, despite the fact that we still have no luck of trying to get ourselves, Dragon Ball Z, or kind of think about it, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, because we still don't have the PS5, but let's hope for the sake of the forms of Nintendo Switch successor, I'm hoping for it, but I doubt it. So anyway, yeah, pretty cool to have that. And then we have one more PSP Dragon Ball Z fighting game until in 2010, which is Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team, which is basically Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, except you're able to actually have a 2 versus 2 team battle. So I will admit it though right away, I also played this a lot back then, especially because of how energetic this gameplay style actually plays out to be. And generally speaking, also you can play this game on the go, which I honestly do fully appreciate it. And yeah, it is such a really dang good game to me, though. Although it is a bit washed out compared to the forms of how it does it on the, let's just say, Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Mainly because, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't have that much playable characters, like it did say on the back right there. Choose from 70 playable and customizable characters, whilst unlike Budokai Tenkaichi 3, has whopping 160 playable characters, and even nowadays with Sparking Zero, actually has whopping 182 playable characters. So, yeah, it's a good thing I managed to able to get this back then, especially it's kind of hard to find these games at some form or another. I'm not exactly sure why that this game is actually pretty hard to get these days. I'm thinking because of how the fact that it might be somewhat feels a bit more popular or something. Well, I can't really judge about that, but either way though, if you dare manage to try to find it, definitely pick it up. It is seriously such a cool game. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, the only Kingdom Hearts game to be playable on a PSP. Well, that was back in 2010, because every once in a while nowadays is that we've now got the HD remaster of the forms of, well, from several Kingdom Hearts compilation games, thanks to the forms of not only Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 remakes on the PlayStation 3, and even with the PSP PS4 version as well, and even nowadays with any other systems as well, like Xbox, PC Steam, and unfortunately though, the cloud version on Nintendo Switch. So, either way, and for I've played this though, it's actually pretty dang cool to me though. Like, it's seriously, it's, pretty underrated to me though. And yeah, this obviously takes place before Kingdom Hearts 1 in terms of the storytelling, just because obviously though, Sora was young in this game, and also same applies with Kairi, as you can tell from the image, and on top of that with Riku as well. They are really, really young, and it's also worth noting for too, about the fact that obviously though, that was a part of the beginning of the forms of being able to actually just, well, hard for me to explain, because I know for a fact that the timeline of the Kingdom Hearts games is a bit convoluted, so at least if you pretty much know exactly to what to understand of what the actual plot unfolds. So anyway, the gameplay is pretty fun though, and the graphics still manage to hold up very well, even on the PSP, despite the fact that the load times are pretty much abysmal on the PSP version these days, because I already know for a fact that you can able to install it, to able to actually, like, get the load times much more faster for what I was expecting. And usually, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, I still managed to enjoy this for quite a bit, but I still haven't completed the game yet. But that's mainly because, as far as I'm aware, I'm still on to the final episode on the original version of Birth by Sleep, just because, well, I will admit it though right away, it's actually really hard for me to go back into the control style on the original version of the Birth by Sleep, because I'm pretty much used to with not only the the PS3 version, but it's also with the PS4 version as well, because thankfully though, you can able to take control of the camera with the actual right analog stick. So at the very least, you do have two analog sticks on those two versions, but of course with the PSP, we are basically stuck with only one analog stick. So not a huge deal, but regardless of such though, yeah, I do enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Mega Man Maverick Contra X, and for those of you probably wondering, this is basically a remake of the original Mega Man X. Originally came out on the Super Nintendo, and for what I've seen, this particular gameplay footage of this game is actually pretty dang awesome. Like, it's basically based off from a remake of, as I stated before, it's a remake of the original Mega Man X with all its new features and all that stuff. Even though the gameplay is pretty much left intact, I should say. But apart from those side of things, though, it does have some pretty cool features in this version, and also it does contain the playable demo of yet another Mega Man remake, which appears to be Mega Man Powered Up. And yeah, that's actually a pretty cool deal. And I still haven't exactly got that much progression on this game either, but that's just mainly because I've been busy playing through other games recently, and yet I will attempt able to try to play this at some point, and thankfully though I can play this game on the go, so that way, assuming if I need to charge up my PSP, because I haven't played my PSP for quite some time, so either way, yeah, for what it's worth though, yeah, definitely recommend this, assuming if you don't have the original Super Nintendo version, well, yeah, just get this, because it is such a cool addition. Speaking of which, here's Mega Man Powered Up, and this is obviously based off from a remake of the original Mega Man. Originally came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1980, I would say 1997 or something, so either way. And as far as I'm aware, yes indeed, Mega Man Powered Up does feature some new elements to it, like for instance though with new style and retro old style, and in addition to that, two new robot masters have been added, like for instance Oil Man and Time Man. And usually for what I've played this so far, I still haven't exactly completed this game yet, but the only stage I'm currently stuck on is the forms of Fireman, because oh my goodness, I tend to keep on dying a lot, especially concerning for the fact that with all this like new momentum and stuff, and not only that though, I have to be able to try to unlock the playable robot masters. Well, yeah, in order to do that though, I have to use only Mega Man without any some sort of weakness weapons. So yeah, that's as far as I need to try to able to point things out right away. So but for what I've played, it's actually pretty dang good to me anyway. And thankfully though, you can play this game on the go, obviously, and another thing is worth noting for as well, that new content is pretty cool, especially you can able to actually make your very own level creator. Yes, before Super Mario Maker, as well as the forms of the Dungeon Maker for The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Remake for the Nintendo Switch, and obviously though you can able to make your very own stages for the sake of Mega Man Powered Up. Although I really wish if this game will give ourselves another chance for modern systems, because, well, suffice to say though, it's only stuck onto the PSP, which, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy this game still, but it's just about the fact that, well, they were originally trying to plan Mega Man Powered Up 2, but because of poor sales, for what I've heard anyway, with Mega Man Powered Up, unfortunately, though, the second remake is not going to exist. So it's kind of unfortunate, though, because that would be a huge opportunity to be able to actually become a Mega Man fanatic, such as myself. So anyway, yeah, definitely recommend this one. Sonic Rivals. Oh yes, one of the 2 Sonic games to be released on the PlayStation Portable. And for the first outing for the PSP Sonic game, like this for instance, it's alright. I mean, it's not the best game in the world. I mean, obviously, though, it's about the fact that the levels are okay. And on top of all that stuff, though, I feel like that the rubber banding AI is absolutely atrocious in this game, which thankfully in the sequel does manage able to make it the actual rubber banding feel a bit more balanced. So, but I digress. It's fine. So, either way, though, yeah, got nothing else to say about this one. Sonic Rivals 2. I will still say, though, that this game is pretty underrated to me, though. I mean, it is a tad bit more easier compared to the forms of how it does on the first game, probably because, as I established that earlier, that I feel like that the rubber banding AI in the first game is absolutely atrocious. Well, thankfully, though, the second game does manage able to make this thing a little bit more balanced, so thankfully, though, it's a little bit easier. But regardless of such, though, I still really like the presentation on the forms of Sonic Rivals 2, and it's especially noticeable concerning for the fact that I'm glad to have this. And funnily enough, though, according to what Sonic did told me that this is technically our very first PlayStation Portable game we somehow got. So yeah, I do apologize for that particular awkward tongue twisting in there, but that's just mainly because, well, I haven't exactly caught up with the forms of the Maxi toys recently. So anyway, so yeah, definitely recommend this one, at least assuming if you already experienced Sonic Rivals 1 already. But yeah, definitely recommend Sonic Rivals 2 if you get a chance. Even though it's a shame there's no third entry in the series, my guess is because nobody cares about the forms of Sonic Rivals anymore. So yeah, kind of unfortunate. And finally, Super Monkey Ball Adventure, in some cases the worst, probably is the second worst version of Super Monkey Ball Adventure, that's for sure, because I know for certain, for one thing, the controls are pretty sensitive, and not to mention though, basically though, the frame rate is pretty much abysmal whenever you're trying to get into certain stages, and not to mention though, the load times are pretty bad as well, and although I will give this version some credit for, and that's what appears to be for the fact that you're able to experience the exclusive features like certain new stages. And on top of all that stuff though, if we look here, there's also wireless multiplayer games, and there's also some bonus card, trading card game to be able to interact with. So, mind you, it's been ages since I actually have last played this version of the game, because let's face it though, I just got this for the sake of the collection's sake for the Super Monkey Ball franchise, and not to mention though is about the fact that I'm, if I dare to try to able to do this game as a Let's Play anyway, specifically the GameCube version most likely, well, I'm also able to try to show off some PSP exclusive stuff every once in a while. I mean, I just don't know what to say about it, because I just still think that Super Monkey Ball Adventure is the worst entry in the series to me, because obviously though, art style looks so off, and on top of all that stuff though, although I do appreciate what the music has been reused from Super Monkey Ball 1, because obviously though I love Super Monkey Ball 1's soundtrack, but either way though, despite the fact that it just fades in and then just somehow comes back out of it for about a few seconds notice, so kind of an odd choice. But yeah, if I were you, go for the GameCube version, and please, for the love of God, skip over the PS2 version, and avoid the PSP version. So, unless if you're very, very curious like I do. So, but yeah, that was about it, basically. That's our PSP game collection. So, yeah, it's definitely a little bit more up there compared to the forms of how it does it since, like, I can't even believe it's been 3 years ago since we last done that particular collection like this. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and this is me, Meloetta here, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos here. Now, if you're probably wondering what the heck is happening to the forms of our originally planned for the upcoming redo Let's Play, which appears to be Sonic Generations for the 3DS, sadly to tell you for this point, guys, that particular Let's Play has been delayed again. But to make matters worse, though, you got to wait until next year in 2025. So, yeah, I just want to classify that. Now, I'm sure that someplace else will mention more about it if they get onto the forms of a Let's Play replacement. But I can't tell you exactly what that is just yet. But you have to wait and see until tomorrow, that is. And it's also worth noting for as far as at this point, too, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie is releasing tomorrow in America. So I hope you guys are really looking forward to that. And usually we have to wait for about 2 days left for the UK version, that is. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at some point soon. Bye!